Guys, the French government has just officially collapsed, and now the country is on the brink of nationwide protests. In fact, the French population is so frustrated with the government's instability and negligence that they are now planning massive shutdowns with the aim to halt the country's entire economy for a day, saying, "Let's block everything." You see, last night was unbelievable. France kicked out the country's 4th prime minister in just 12 months, leading people to describe the country as ungovernable. That is a wild sentence right there. And now, without a prime minister, the government has ground to a halt, forcing the president, Emmanuel Macron, to find yet another replacement. And now, considering the situation, there are also growing calls for President Macron himself to be removed, and his critics are saying that he is clinging on to power and he is unable to govern effectively. And honestly, tomorrow's planned strikes could be a breaking point in this tension across the country.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren.
And I'm Maureen.
Right, so in today's episode, guys, we are going to be talking about France, right? And the question you're asking is, how will France survive without a country or a continent to exploit if they can't exploit Africa? Because they were so used to getting resources from other places, and right now it's looking like their well is running dry.
Right, and this is where we ask ourselves, is this the 200 years of an empire falling, or is this just a rough bump for France and they have to relearn how to live their lives without necessarily relying on African countries? Because right now, if you Google if Africa is the reason why France is experiencing all these problems, of course you're not gonna get this information on mainstream media.
Right.
But you only get this kind of information and analysis on the internet, YouTube and TikTok. So who do we believe? Do we believe Google or do we believe TikTok?
Right, and because there was a point where if you asked yourself if an empire, we were witnessing a fall of an empire, being that we are seeing what is happening in France, those are the kind of things you wouldn't find on the internet. But I feel like despite the denial, right now it's all falling in front of all our eyes, because you cannot say a country is doing well when its citizens are going out to protest. For what reason?
Right. So let's watch this video and then you come back and talk about it. You can also let us know what you think about this particular episode, right? And also let us know in the comment section, do you agree that the reason why France is having all these problems is because of Africa cutting ties with it, or it might be because of something else? Let us know in the comment section, and also consider subscribing if you're new to our channel, and we'll see you after these videos.
France is now ungovernable. You better believe it. France is now ungovernable. The country that actually made its money from bleeding black people, the country that forced Haiti to pay 150 billion for their freedom, and one of the reasons why Haiti is still in the situation it is right now is because of France. France, the country that bled Africa, making sure that the countries that it colonized basically had to pay a colonial tax for being colonized. That country, the country that one of the biggest slave traders in the world, that country has run out of money. They cannot afford to pay the pensions. They cannot afford the healthcare system. Literally, France is literally on the verge of economic collapse. And this is serious. France is in worse trouble than Greece was, except at the time the European Union was so powerful at the time. But now the European Union was weakened by Brexit. The European Union has been weakened by Trump turning against them. So now the European Union, they're just running around like headless chickens. They cannot even bail France out. France is literally on the verge of collapse. And coming close after France is going to be the UK and Germany.
So the French government has fallen again, but international news media is going to be very shy about telling us the real reason why it's fallen, the economic reasons why it's fallen. On his way out, the ousted Prime Minister, Mr. Francois, said, "You might kick me out, you might remove me, but that does not change the economic problems for the country." I'm paraphrasing. The real reason why France has failed as a government is because Africa has taken its power back. Ever since the country of Niger, in the Sahel, in Central West Africa, decided to nationalize its uranium, France has never been the same again. This uranium that state-owned companies like Orano, French-owned companies like Orano had been siphoning, stealing under the previous government, today, Niger turned off the faucet. Niger said no more. So Niger, under the new governance of President Tiani, is nationalizing its uranium. This uranium France was stealing not only to light its beautiful cities like Paris and Nice, it was also using it to run its electrical manufacturing and industries. All of these are processing and running their nuclear reactors on top of it all. So these things that are the foundations of an economy, like manufacturing and processing, right now that the electricity in France, their energy is not safe. They do not have a reliable place to get their energy from. This is why they're suffering. But it's not going to be told that way on international news media. You're only going to hear it from people like me and others who are truth tellers. So yeah, this is why. This is what happens. This is proof that African leaders are in service of either them or us.
Réveille-toi, le pouvoir est à toi. Français, réveille-toi, le pouvoir est à toi.
So France is broke because African countries have kicked them out and they don't allow them to exploit them anymore. And as you saw, there's a big rally in the country. They're protesting the president, Macron. They want him out. Yesterday, they voted out the prime minister, which was the third prime minister in 14 months. He got a vote of no confidence, the same last three, because the last three prime ministers cannot present a bill or cannot present a plan on how to revitalize the French economy. Now, the only way to present a plan to revitalize the French economy is by re-enslaving or re-exploiting African countries. And Russia is helping African countries. Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, they're building nuclear plants. Like, it's helping African countries. That's Russia's plan of fucking up the West. So the West is using a proxy war to destroy Russia. Russia is deciding, okay, I'm going to take away your means of living. So Russia has been saving African countries from France. And they have a planned demonstration tomorrow, the 10th. Wednesday, the whole nation is going to have this massive demonstration tomorrow in protest of Macron. But yeah, France is broke. And everything they're doing right now, a lot of the French understand it, but majority of the masses don't. Everything they're doing right now, nothing can be done. The only way France goes back to where it used to be is to find new countries to exploit for resources. That's it. France has nothing. They have nothing. England is next. Oh, I also forgot to add, this is why France has been pushing for a war with Russia. France has gotten 26 countries right now to agree to invade, to go into Ukraine, which is going to be a violation, which will force a war with Russia. The reason France wants this is if it does that, then Russia is now faced with more problems, more wars. Then it takes away some of its resources from Africa. It creates new chaos, and then France uses that as an opportunity to go back into Africa and then find new countries to exploit. The only way France can survive is exploitation. So they need war right now to make that exploitation happen.
If you're in France today, don't expect it to be a journée habituelle. Is it because the government just collapsed? Partly. But there's also a viral grassroots campaign called Bloquons Tout that's calling for a day of nationwide civil disobedience. What kind? Blocking train stations, picketing oil refineries, targeting transport, schools, public institutions, and logistics hubs. So what are people mad about? Well, it used to be about the budget that soon-to-be former Prime Minister François Bayrou proposed. That included scrapping 2 national holidays, freezing pensions, and cutting 5 billion euros from health spending. That's off the table now, but people still want fiscal policy reform and better living standards. But wait, isn't this just like the
Les gilets jaunes?
Les gilets jaunes.
Yellow vests.
Not exactly. In case you missed it, the Gilets jaunes was a grassroots protest movement in late 2018 that started from a fuel tax hike but quickly erupted into nationwide demonstrations against inequality. The Gilets jaunes came largely from rural France, while Bloquons Tout heavily skews towards younger, more educated, and politically engaged people from the left. How left? Pretty left. Many of them support Jean-Luc Mélenchon, de facto leader of La France Insoumise. With the government's implosion, France is now in hot water. Will the Bloquons Tout changer?
Clashes between the police and the French have broken out in the streets of Paris. Videos emerging from Gare du Nord show police in riot gear in clashes, and sometimes they were videoed being violent to the protesters. Now the protesters have come out in full swing because they are protesting the dire economic situation that is in France. Now, the French government collapsed a couple of days ago, and the French government have not been honest with the French. They haven't come out and said that the reason that the French have basically become bankrupt is because they can no longer steal money from Africa, because Africans have kicked them out. So it is impossible to look at their populations in the face and say, all the money that we had, we were stealing it from Africa, and now the Africans have kicked us out. We've got nowhere else to get the money from. And hence, the chaos continues, because the French are so puzzled. They don't understand why their country has no money, why they've got no money for infrastructure, no money for resources, no money for pensions. But the government cannot tell them in the face that for all these years, they have been sustained by money that was stolen from Africans who were literally starving whilst they were enjoying the African money.
Breaking update. France's government is on the verge of collapse and the crisis is shaking Europe to its core. The country is drowning in debt, with a staggering €3.34 trillion deficit that grows by nearly €5,000 every single second. And it's not just France, the United Kingdom is also staring down the same path. Here's the part most people don't know. For decades, 14 African nations were forced into an arrangement that sent up to 80% of their yearly revenues straight to France. That deal kept France afloat for over 50 years. But times have changed. Countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, and Senegal have expelled France, cutting off Paris from the very resources that kept its economy stable. Now, the fallout is massive. Companies are leaving France, unemployment is rising, and the state can't keep up with the weight of its own debt. The lifeline from Africa is gone, and with it, France's economic safety net. Meanwhile, the UK still leans heavily on Nigeria, but analysts warn that if Nigeria follows the same path and pushes back, Britain could face a collapse similar to France. What we're seeing right now is Europe paying the price for decades of dependency on Africa. The old system is crumbling and the cracks are finally out in the open. So here's the big question. Is this the beginning of Europe's economic downfall? Or can these nations survive without Africa's resources?
So guys, welcome back. Let us know what you think about this episode on the comment section. You know, this is one of the situations where you look at what's happening around the world and you say you don't exactly feel sorry for these people, because like a country that has been living their normal wars to exploit other countries to grow on the suffering of other people, you know, I feel like they're getting what they deserve. And they normally say eventually you get to pay for what you do on the planet, right? Your contribution. And we know what the role that France played. The question I'm going to ask is, right, do you think Ibrahim Traore was the genesis of Macron's problem, or France as a country? That is Traore and the Burkina Faso, Mali, you know, Niger. Do you think that the genesis of all their problems, or do you think there's something that was happening behind the curtains that was not being reported about that led this whole scenario that is happening right now, yeah? And do you think that Ibrahim Traore and the other three leaders from the other African nations were just the final nails on their coffin?
Right. And while you're asking that, I also wanted to ask a question. Do you think that Africa will ever truly rise to its true potential? Because I personally do feel like while we do have leaders like Ibrahim Traore, we have a lot more like other bad leaders. You know who they are, even to begin with our own country here in Kenya. Other bad leaders whom I personally do feel like, yes, Africa will come to rise to its true potential someday, but not anytime soon, especially with the crop of leadership Africa has right now across the continent. Because there was also a clip of a white man that went viral, and this white man was saying Africa will never grow because we, and he was referring to the Western countries, right? We will never allow Africa to get to its true potential, because even they know that they are depending on the African countries. Because another person was also painting a scenario where right now Africans are flocking Western countries to go look for jobs and whatnot, right? And can you imagine a few light years from right now, if like, let's say people from France are flocking the African continent to look for jobs? They don't want their children to go through that. And that is the reason why they will never allow Africa to rise. And if it were up to them, they will continue doing what they have been doing for a long time, which is corrupt a few leaders who are out to look for their, who are looking out for themselves and their family, give them a few millions of dollars and make them agree to doing their will or bidding here in Africa. So personally, I do not feel like, yes, Africans want to rise, but I do not feel like Africa will rise anytime soon. But what is inevitable is how France is falling. Right now, they're saying that UK is not far behind France and Western countries like America, which I do feel like partly is because of their debts and their taxation system. They are going on a downfall, you know.
Yeah, but guys, okay, personally, I do say that, you know, for a country that, look at how they treated Haiti, yeah? And you're like, there had to be a system at a point where that was working for them as a country in order for them to build that empire, right? But I feel like corruption and bad leadership is not only happening in Africa, it has to be worldwide, because look at how first world countries, look at them right now. I feel like there was a point where first world countries was enjoying peace, the kind of peace that only Africans could dream of. Or was that PR? I don't know, guys. Let me know in the comment section. But right now, you look at the Western countries or the countries that you call, you know, first world countries, and people are complaining a lot. And it's like, the situations there is impossible, because I feel like also in France there was a time when people looked at Paris and they felt like they were going to heaven, you know.
It was a romanticized version of Paris.
Exactly. I'm trying to remember that version of Paris, and today when tourists go to Paris and complain, this is not what I see in advertisement or brochures. This is not, you know, even the river, the famous river that was
filled with poop.
Exactly, during Olympic. Like, you don't expect a first world country to
have such
like,
problems,
you know, and then they turn around and blame it on immigrants, you know.
And this problem was magnified after the Western countries, the West African countries, that is Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. That is after they tried or they did cut ties with the France military. And it was then and there that there was another person who came to the internet and was blaming President Macron of having opened African eyes, you know. And he was saying that the minute Africans, the entire of Africa opens their eyes, that will be the end of Western countries. So what did they mean by that statement?
Guys, I really pray for Africa to get to such a point where, like, I would want to see that shift in power. Like, you know, right now,
but
America,
then again, they say prayers will not take Africa anywhere. It is actions that will take us. You know, the problem with us Africans is we usually pray a lot, which I do get it, you know. We do believe in God, but prayers without actions is dead,
you know. But anyway, I was saying, just like,
you are hoping and praying.
Stop it. Okay, personally, I was saying, okay, let's just picture this,
okay,
right?
Just continue with your,
I was picturing this, yeah? You see how America used to be, like, everybody wants to go to America, everybody wants to visit the New York, the Empire State of, you know, those things that they used to advertise to us here in Africa, and we're like, America is the land of milk and honey. You remember those days?
I do.
You look at France and people want to go to Paris, people want to go to London. You think about if you want to live out your love life, if you want to live out a love storyline, you don't find it in Africa. You know, you go to France for you to find that. If you want to find a world full of technology, you go to Japan. Exactly.
Yes. You go to Japan, or you go to America.
You go to, you know, you look at Americans, and even kids who at 14 years old have iPhones, and you like, at that point when kids were buying iPhones in America, in Africa, people still didn't even have the button. Not everybody had the button phone, you know. It was just a few rich people, you know. And you're like, how did we have a complete 360 from that to what we have right now? It's like migration is shifting, right? There are people who are coming from first world countries and they're coming into Africa. The sad part is a lot of them are buying the good parts of Africa. Like, for example,
and the even saddest part is that it's white people.
Right. There's I saw video clips of Israelis going to Africa and they're buying up. There's a section they're buying up.
South Africa. There's an island where also foreigners, like, exclusive exclusively foreigners have bought land in South Africa.
Yeah, and then you think about what's happening in those Western countries, Israel, where it's not the perfect scenario right now, but a lot of them are migrating to Africa to take up the,
because they know that
whatever is left that is good.
Right, because they know that is where the economic boom is coming. Africa and China, So most of them are moving to Africa so that they can catch the wave as it goes.
Yeah, so my point was, what if Africa someday, but not with our leaders, but let's just go with the thought, right? Africa someday becomes the first world country that everybody wants to go and look for opportunities for, everyone wants to go and live. But that will only happen if presidents like Tinubu and Ruto get out of office,
Yeah, and the funniest thing is, someone once mentioned that right now we are happy that more Black Americans are discovering the African continent, and it's not only just white people coming into the continent, right? And someone once said that, I think for the most part, our leaders were kind of like shying away from welcoming Black Americans with open arms,
I remember that.
Black Americans are from the first world countries and they've been exposed to so much that when they come here, they will actually make the system work. And
imagine Black Americans coming to Africa and taking up leadership positions.
Right, and that is why a lot of our leaders are working with the elites of the other governments to make it hard for Black Americans to come into the continent. But this is a situation where I feel like it's actually eventually inevitable. Black Americans will come and they will fill the continent.
I hope you come quickly.
Not only Black Americans, Jamaicans and Caribbeans in general.
I'm quite glad that Jamaicans are actually filling up the motherland. More and more of them. Do you know, growing up, to be quite honest, we didn't used to have a lot of foreigners who were Black. Only white people, right?
Foreigners who were Black,
which even the white people, you didn't used to meet them everywhere. Just specific places that you never even would have,
like luxurious places that you wouldn't dream of walking into with your 2 feet. But right now, you go to buy a fruit out there, you meet a Mzungu white person, you meet a Mzungu. You go to buy something else somewhere, you meet a Black American, and it's a good, what is it called? It's a good thing to also meet another Black person.
Yeah, and I was just saying, like, growing up, guys, to be quite honest, the most we knew about Jamaicans was through their music.
Right.
And actually, we thought they were like a country in Africa, some part of Africa,
And our first time meeting a Jamaican was last year. Like in real flesh and blood.
And they talk like that. It was quite exciting
to hear the accents. And also the first time meeting a Black American, it was also last year.
And that was quite an experience.
It was quite an experience. And also the very first time knowing up close about Black Americans was also last year when we started reaction videos.
Right, so that just tells you where the world is moving. If
and
you
there's a disconnect between the Black communities around the world, but who is to benefit? Who benefits from all this division? Countries like France.
And that just goes to show you how the world is very quickly becoming a small global village. If you can find a Jamaican all the way from the Caribbean in a small East African country called Kenya, like that's a
some of them
thing,
are even married to Kenyan women. It's a beautiful thing to see. Before they speak, you can think that these are people from the same country,
Kenyan,
people from the same tribe. It's up until when they start speaking, you see, oh, this one is a Kenyan, this one is a Jamaican.
Right. So anyway, guys, let us know what you think about this on the comment section. But definitely, I feel like we are witnessing the fall of not an empire, many empires. To whoever's benefit, I don't know.
It might not happen today. It might not happen in 50 years. It might not happen in 100 years. But I wish you would live long enough to see.
Because it's like life is
when Africa comes becomes a superpower.
Right. They normally say, there's a friend of mine, ours, who normally says like life is like a movie. It's like you're watching a movie and the twists and turns and episodes and seasons, So right now, the season we are in, like the episodes are so interesting that I would want to watch the season finale of America, France, Africa, China,
Yes,
but I guess,
continent in short.
Exactly, but I guess that you live to the next generation, because like how long would you have to live for you need to watch, because there was the Roman Empire, right? There are people who would have loved, like people who lived in the good eras of the Roman Empire, that those ones who lived in its collapse, you know. So
and there were those who lived in the era where Africa was like a paradise, you know, the Garden of Eden, back when Mansa Musa was ruling his kingdom. Anyway,
right, when the systems were different, that those ones who lived in an era where we don't have to say it, but slavery happened, you know, and people lost, you know, their relatives, others were
their
sold into
ancestry
slavery.
was forgotten because of whatever systems were put in place for them to drop their names, their languages, all of that
People
happened.
lived
But
in the days of invasions, you know. But anyway, I don't know, guys. Let us know what you think about this episode. But it's quite exciting to watch the fall of an empire, especially an evil one. It's quite the experience, right? Let us know what you think about this episode in the comment section. Also consider subscribing if it's your first time here, and we'll see you on our next episode.